If most people think that that's not a big factor with a lot of people who are 27, 28, getting out of the military, you're like, I really don't want to sit with 18-year-olds. I really don't want to do it. This is an opportunity to be able to say you don't have to do that. And you don't have to worry about the normal structure of what an online education might mean. So you also have to have a university that understands the challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It understands the challenges. And a large part of that, again, is also, people see me and they quickly go, okay, well, he's got a disability, he's in a wheelchair, but there are a lot of other forms of disability, especially when it comes to the veteran population. So having a university that understands the challenges that come along with veterans is huge. I've done, we're doing this, which is wonderful, but I've done a lot of speaking engagements on this campus, explaining to many different professors and faculty that you have unique scenarios that you do not see with a normal student population that you get in the veteran population. Sometimes non-veterans have PTSD, and that's not what that's same but different. But you have a situation where if a veteran is having, a mental health concerns at the time, he does not or she does not want to go sit in a classroom while that's happening. And finding a way for them to still be able to get their education and not be punished for the injuries they sustained while in service of their country is huge. And that is one of the things the last 3 years I've talked about consistently is how do you find a way to make it more accessible to everybody? And the veteran population, especially the ones with PTSD and other non-visual injuries that you can see, it's huge to have, if I was going to give advice again, go back to the people who are running their universities and going, what are our policies that are specific to those with mental health concerns? What are the policies in place if they say that I can't come to class because I'm not having a good day? Now, I always tell people that obviously there are some people who will try and take advantage of the system and say, oh, I'm not having a good day, I'm not coming to class. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the men and women who have served the country and others, not non-veterans as well, that will get the ancillary benefits of this, but ask them, what is our policy? Are we more understanding towards these men and women who have registered as veterans? And I always get asked, should I ask them what's going on? No. If you're gonna talk to them, if you were gonna go take this video and say, okay, I'm gonna go talk to the professor, and they're gonna ask, should I ask them what's going on? Should I try and empathize with them? If the person comes to you and wants to talk about it, by all means, because they're willing to open up, and that's a wonderful thing. But if not, especially with veterans, you need to take them at their word. At least until you can see a pattern of where you go, now wait a second, I think you may be either taking advantage of the system, or I need a little bit more, okay, you haven't come to class in 2 months, I need a doctor, something like that. But I would ask them, what is our policy when it deals specifically with the veteran population, others who have mental health concerns as well? That is huge, and that's one thing that the University of Alabama has allowed me to do and be a part of. Is I was part of the diversity committee that just released its findings, and we just hired a diversity officer. We're one of the few universities in the world that has their own diversity officer now. It's a full-time person whose entire job it is to constantly review everything we're doing on campus for all the different diverse populations there are. And it is huge. It's been a wonderful experience the last 2 years I've spent. Started out on the subcommittee and then on the actual committee. And I was a representative for veteran and disability rights at Alabama. And that was one of the things I constantly preached is we need to have something on the books. We need to have something written as a policy, how we will deal with these situations. How are we going to make it easier? Because colleges especially, unless it's a nonprofit college, and there's very few of those that I actually know of, okay, these are your customers. So how are you going to make it easier to acquire the customer base that is being ignored or marginalized? And the veteran population in most campuses is that way. So Alabama has set up a wonderful model now where they implemented a lot of the things that I talked about, implemented a lot of the policies that are needed to deal with these different situations. And also they've gone out of their way to try and recruit veterans, and as I talked about, out of their way to try and integrate veterans with the normal student population, which is key. Because again, a lot of 18 and 19-year-old kids, when they first get here, and they, all they've seen is what's happening on the news. Right. All they've seen is what they saw on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever they're looking at that point in time. That's all they know of what they've seen. They don't see the human face. They don't understand that these, again, like I said, these are your brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. They don't see that, so they see this. So having the opportunity for them to constantly get together, for them to be integrated into the student population is huge. And while Alabama obviously is far from perfect at it, they've made a huge step forward. And again, the diversity officer and everything like that. So yeah, that's integration and understanding that we need a more concrete policy to make things more accessible. And I don't mean, physically on the campus, although that's another huge issue, but making things more accessible to the veteran population to be able to get their education as well as active duty military and being much more understanding. And again, go to the presidents of the universities, go to the deans of the colleges and saying, what are we doing to make things easier, not harder for our veterans? For making things easier, not harder for our active duty military. Do we have a program that allows significant more leniency to these specific groups than would a normal college do? And if you do that, word gets out very quickly to the veteran and active duty population of which schools will work with you. And that is huge. And if you're trying to grow your university, there's no better population than do it with the military. And again, like I said, this is a group that is already prepared for hard work and understands the rigors of college and has already had the dedication and drive built into them. And again, you don't have to worry about the financial side of the house because it's being paid for. So why wouldn't you go after it?
So you brought up so many threads that I want to pull on here, and I'm so glad you did. So I know you are huge in advocacy both for accessibility and for student veterans here at the University of Alabama, and also that here at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, we are very lucky that we have this great student veterans organization. Also have this wonderful adapted athletics program, and we have New College Life Track. So we are really lucky with the resources that we have. You just brought up a whole bunch of really excellent strategies that maybe students at universities that don't have the same kind of really well-developed resources that we have here could pursue. So you mentioned going to presidents, going to deans of different colleges on campus. Are there some other routes that you could see ROTC cadets potentially pursuing, like other groups that they ought to talk to who are really receptive to a lot of the advocacy efforts that you pursue?
The number one thing I would say is most universities, and again, forgive my a little bit of naivete when it comes to every college in the country, but the big thing that you can go to is the student government organizations. Almost every college I know of, unless it's a community college, but even then they have them. Go to your student government organizations. Those are the ones who have the means and the resources, regardless of what campus you're on, to push these agendas. Just be prepared when you go to them to be able to fight and argue your point and be able to, and I know you're gonna put the links up and everything, and that's wonderful, to be able to show them it has been done, it can be done. Okay, and you can use Alabama as a perfect example, again, where you're just talking about, we already had adaptive sports, we had, New College Life Track, we have the desire to do it. Even on campuses that don't have the desire to do these things, if you can show it's been done at other places, if you can show how we've done it, you have to battle is fought. So go to the student government organizations. Every campus has either a student government organization, or they have a diversity group, or they have one of them. Go to those groups, because those are the ones who have the direct ears of the administration. So even if you don't feel comfortable going, I'm going to walk into the dean's office and give him what for about what I think that he's doing to veterans, or she's doing to veterans, I'm going to tell them, even if you don't feel comfortable, well, go to the students, go to the student government, and then go, this is what we think. Because there are very few, especially in this country, campuses that do not in some way, shape, or form have the desire to help veterans, or at least the desire to show that they help veterans. So I'm very big of make them prove it. Make them put their money where their mouth is. Because if you go in there, they're going to tell you, I guarantee they're going to tell you that we love our veterans. Okay, well, here's how we need to help our veterans. So, but be prepared. Do not walk in there unprepared and going, we want this. Well, how are we going to accomplish that? Because a lot of universities will say, and rightfully so, we don't have a huge budget, and we have to be very strategic with how we spend our budget. And unfortunately, veterans fall under a diversity group versus just a separate population they're trying to grow. So show them the good things that come from trying to attract veterans. Show them the good things, and especially the financial side of the house, because they will understand that better than anything. If you can show them that you are bringing in a population that will grow their student base and that will grow their financial base, they'll go for it. but you have to show them why they need to be doing it. And every university I've ever seen, private or state-owned, worries about their budget. And if you can show them that you have highly motivated, highly trained, very hard charging, and that all we have to do is make things easier for them to get their education, but by the way, that you don't have to worry about if they're going to pay their debts because it's already paid for before the semester starts, you're golden. But you take that to the student government first, and then you push it through. But if you do have a connection, and if you do have a connection or you know somebody who has a connection, go straight to the dean, go to the president if you have that connection. But if not, go to the student government organization, because they're the ones who set the agenda for the student body and student population. And again, if they don't have a veterans group as part of the student government, become that. If they don't have a veterans group on campus, start your own veterans group and start that, because I was lucky enough to come here and there was already stuff going on, and I just added to it. And I added some of the resources and information and knowledge I had, but it was already here. But if it's not already on your campus, start your own, because that quickly will show them that there is a will on campus for these things to be done, that there is a will to change how things are done. But if you just show up and go, I want these things to happen, and then they go, great, what are you going to do? And you go, well, I was hoping you would do it. Now you've got a problem. But if you don't have that on campus, and if you're one of the cadre or whatever, have your ROTC members start their own. Have them actively look for veterans on campus or active duty military. It doesn't have to be a veterans organization. It can be just a military liaison office or a military advocacy group or a military. Have them try and get a seat on the student government as part of the veterans or active military representative. Have somebody get the seat at the table. They won't say no, but you have to ask the question first. So I would absolutely go to the student government and become part of it, and then move it from there. If they don't have direct access to the president or the dean of students, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's great advice. That's wonderful.